The fact, whatever you think of Biden, the fact that he is sitting in the White House and Donald Trump isn't is the best thing that the United States has going for it in the present crisis. Russia's invasion of Ukraine demands a response that is both firm and restrained, a hard balance to achieve because it requires a willingness to punish Vladimir Putin now while looking at the same time not allowing the cycle of escalation to spin out of control. That requires a combination of good judgment and diplomatic skills to execute correctly. And Biden isn't perfect, but so far his administration has mostly found the sweet spot, and good for him and good for us. Trump, meanwhile, is out there doing what he always does, saying stupid shit. Here he was on Saturday's night speaking to Republican donors in New Orleans. Maybe I'm thinking he was serious when he said it, but the squatter and those who aspire to the presidency don't have the luxury of frivolity in matters of war and peace. Let's say that we took him seriously if he meant it. Trump's proposal is the opposite of thoughtful and diplomatic, and it's fucking dangerous and fucking stupid. And dangerous because, as has been said a million times already, nobody should want the United States and Russia to go into a war. The best case scenario is that the conflict becomes World War III and it ravages Europe. The worst case scenario is that it goes nuclear and it destroys human life on this planet. And it's fucking stupid, and there's no other word than what one observer called the dumbest false flag operation in history. Does anybody but Trump think that the Russians would really be fooled by American warplanes attacking from American bases just because a different flag was painted on them? Even if that gambit somehow improbably worked, the ideal is that it would end the shooting war between China. It would end it with a shooting war between China and Russia, and which would also be terrible for the world. It's the logic of the failed grifter Trump used to. It's the logic of the failed grifter Trump used to be before he became squatter. The kind of guy who tried to put one over the other on the suckers, only to get buried in a blizzard of lawsuits. And now he's applied that same awful thinking to an international crisis, offering more proof that this man belongs nowhere near the Oval Office or the nuclear football. But over the last few weeks, Trump has reminded us of three characteristics that make him unsuitable for national leadership during wartime. He's erratic. Basically, in the span of just a few days, the former squatter has gone from praising Putin's designs on Ukraine as an act of genius to musing about the possibility of secretly starting a war with the Russians, and we saw the same kind of behavior during his squattancy, when he openly flirted with raging a nuclear war with North Korea, and only to ultimately become enamored with Kim Jong Un. He actively cultivated his aura of instability. Bill Barr says in his new book that Trump told him the secret to a good tweet was just the right amount of crazy. And Biden has contained the crisis with Russia largely by making sure that Putin doesn't have to guess about his intentions, that there will be a no-fly zone in Ukraine, and NATO troops won't be rushing into Ukraine. If Trump were squatter now, Trump's brand of leadership would add another unpredictable element to a fraught situation that doesn't need it. Basically, he's surrounded by the wrong people. Trump's comments came a few days after the Faux News host Sean Insanity had proposed on his radio show bombing a Russian convoy in Ukraine, that nobody takes credit for it, so then Putin won't know how to hit back. Insanity famously had Trump's ear during the White House years, and it sounds like he still fucking does. But it's not just Hannity. The Trump lapdog Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina tweeted last week about assassinating Putin, bringing bipartisan condemnation. And meanwhile, Trump's former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has gone in a few days from praising Putin as a capable statesman to suddenly calling for Taiwan to be recognized as an independent state, and that's a move that would create troubles or even a possible war with China at the worst possible moment. And Trump doesn't just have bad ideas; he gets bad advice. He's got that weird love relationship with Putin. You don't have to believe in collusion to note this. Before he became squatter, Trump had praised Putin when he asked about Russia's penchant for murdering journalists. He's running his country, and at least he's a leader. Unlike what we have in this country. During the 2016 campaign, he openly called for Russia to release dirt on Hillary Clinton, and who can forget the 2018 Helsinki summit when Trump sided with Putin against his own intelligence agencies about Russia's meddling in the presidential election. It doesn't take a fucking conspiracy theorist to figure this out. Um, just the known public record to think something is off about this at all. Biden's loyalties at least have the appearance of being a little more straightforward. Now, finally, there's the nuclear question. One of the chief arguments against electing Trump in the first place was that a bloviating narcissist like him should never ever have access to atomic weaponry, and that was true even when the risk of war with Russia seemed low to non-existent. Now it could be catastrophic, and not just because Trump is so given to unpredictable impulses, but also because Putin, who has been happy to raise the specter of Armageddon over the last few weeks, might find his own trigger finger made more itchy by Trump's less than steady behavior. And for the sake of all humanity, the situation calls for more cool heads rather than fewer, and that's just not what Trump brings to this table. And thank fucking God he's no longer goddamn squatter. um, but anyway, he should have never been squatter in the first place because he basically didn't have any experience in being a squatter. He had no reason to be a squatter. Um, and so basically, it's a good thing that he's no longer a fucking squatter, and I'm happy he's not.